Hi, this is Greg Galitzine in the TMC newsroom. Joining me right now is Dr. Vish Nandlall, the CTO of Carrier Networks at Nortel. Welcome to the program.
Nice to be here.
Thanks for coming. So perhaps you can share some insights into the changing nature of the cellular network and some of the work that Nortel is doing in that space.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's coming out with LTE is the promise of broadband wireless.
Right.
We've never really experienced broadband wireless. We've always had narrowband, HSPA, EVDO, whatever its vintage has largely been narrowband. What we're seeing is that a lot of the carriers have instituted a way of developing their networks based on VoIP, based on voice engineering. Voice engineering is a very specific application that requires very low throughput at cell edge. Now, when you go to something like LTE and you want to go to cell edge at 100 megabits per second,
right,
how do you do that? Well, you can't do it using your daddy's cellular network. You're going to need to change things, and the nature of the topology needs to change. It's not going to be the big iron with the big mass. It's going to be femtocells providing dense urban coverage.
Sure.
It's going to be relays and picocells that are providing the cell splits. It's going to be, again, picocells and femtocells in residences and in enterprises. These provide a whole new host of challenges because the number of endpoints that an operator has exploded.
Right. Interesting. So, so what are some of the applications that are driving that sort of switch over to LTE?
Right. Well, clearly, you know, the messaging from the industry and certainly the tribal wisdom is that data is exploding.
Okay.
We're seeing data ARPUs, you know, reaching the 20% levels for a lot of the tier 1 operators in North America. It's becoming something fairly significant. So the question is, you know, how is that profiting an operator? What's the motivation? What's the business imperative? And unfortunately, there's a dirty little secret that we've got. It's that we've got order of magnitude increases in throughput, but only 50% so, or disproportionate increases in the actual revenues.
Right.
So what we need to do is to provide some new premium services, a better compelling user experience, so that operators are going to be able to be motivated to build out these broadband wireless networks.
Okay. I've been hearing a lot about what seems to me a rather accelerated timeline for LTE. Maybe there are promises that it's coming sooner than it really is. From your perspective, when do you think we'll start seeing, you know, commercial trials or deployments of LTE, you know, in practicality?
Right. Well, with Verizon, they're definitely leading this horse.
Right.
And you know, they've got a significant competitive response that needs to happen in North America. And so even with the recessionary spending, they're moving forward against their plans. So, you know, we fully expect trials in this year leading into some commercial rollouts in some major NFL cities in 2010 against the 700 megahertz spectrum. Certainly globally, whether you look at what's happening in Japan between NTT Docomo and KDDI, both have gotten evolved past the LTE. Docomo is taking a bit of a head start. KDDI are going to need to respond as well. We think, you know, latter half 2010. By 2011, I think we'll see the longer tail of operators start to come in. T-Mobile, AT&T, a number of others. And this, you know, will start to, in my mind, form the critical mass of the deployment footprint.
Right. Okay. So there's the technological hurdles, and then there's the business model hurdles for operators. What can you tell me about sort of the business model for you know, for data and things like that?
Right. So data, unfortunately, is very price elastic. Users are expecting flat rates that, you know, that are proportional to what they'd have over their wireline, whether it's DSL or cable. And this is translated into the mobile world, unfortunately. Now, you know, the opportunity for operators is going to be to, you know, A, provide more efficient technologies so that they're getting the most per bit in terms of what a user is serving. LTE is more spectrally efficient, so it brings that to the table. The other side of it is that they need to reduce the OPEX, the cost of managing it, so that they can still maintain these flat rates. And that involves this whole new slew of technologies called self-organizing networks. If you look at the OPEX cost for an operator, it's typically 3 to 5 times their CAPEX. So building in self-organizing networks helps reduce that by around 50 to 60% in some cases.
Sure.
So considerable savings in terms of billions and billions of dollars in the industry that's done. So I think those two things coming with LTE helps to improve the business case, but it doesn't go all the way. You need to start looking at a non-retail model. So take, for instance, as an exemplar, something like the Amazon Kindle. They've pursued not a direct model where they're gaining revenue from their subscriber base. They're wholesaling their services to a third party, who in turn is now still garnering Verizon or Sprint or whomever that tier 1 operator is, revenues. And they're offering a new compelling application. So I think this model of the telco 2.0, the two-sided business model, is the thing that's going to hold sway in terms of really making it meaningful to bring data into the network.
Well, it's a very exciting time right now, that's for sure. So, well, thank you very much for joining me. It was a pleasure speaking with you today.
It was nice speaking to you as well.
Dr. Vish Nandlall, CTO of Carrier Networks at Nortel. I'm Greg Galitzine in the TMC Newsroom.